Okay, welcome back to the channel, everybody. Thanks for watching, and I've got another book review for you today. So, what happens when bad attitude becomes corporate euphemism for disposable youth? A secure 30 something manager is ordered to terminate a younger, non regular colleague. Someone on a temp contract, essentially, days before this temporary contract would naturally end. The reason is that she's late off the subway. She leaves early for her English class. She has the temerity to eat alone and even dares to visit the doctor. Through her eyes, we watch a precariously situated 20 something juggling debt, commuting into the city, night study, and low pay, offering us an intimate snapshot of Korea's intergenerational fracture. The author behind the provocatively titled Because I Hate Korea once more zeroes in on a young woman fighting second class citizenship, turning everyday office politics into social satire. Beneath this clash lies a middle generation proud of past democratic struggle, yet blind to the harsher landscape their successors inherit. Fired asks, when you're told to cut someone loose for fitting the new economy too honestly, are you a bystander or an accomplice? So, Fired is a short story by Kang-myeong, translated by Teresa Kim, and published by Asia Publishers as part of their K fiction series. Reviewed many titles from this series at this point. You can find them on the channel. The English translation was published in 2015, and the Korean title is Albaseng Charugi. So Chang has published 8 novels and one short story collection and one essay collection. He received the Surim Literary Award, and he also won the prestigious Munhak Dongne Writer Award. And before becoming a fiction writer, he worked as a journalist for over a decade and received the Journalist of the Month Award from the Journalist Association of Korea. He says that he made a spur of the moment decision to quit his job one day and devoted himself to writing fiction. He's most famous for, like I mentioned, the very provocatively titled novel Because I Hate Korea. This is about a young Korean woman dreaming of escaping her life of second class citizenship in Korea. And that theme also recurs here in Fired. Fired is a social satire about intergenerational conflict and a 20 something woman struggling to make a life for herself in Korea. So the struggles of the 20 something generation in Korea are a much discussed topic here. So how does Chang depict this generation and the problems that they face? So the story is mainly told from the perspective of Eun-young. Eun-young is a 30 something middle manager at the Seoul branch of a German engineering company. She's married and is secure in her reasonably well paid job. And so it's through Eun-young's eyes that we see Hemi. Hemi is the other administrative employee in an office mainly staffed by salespeople and engineers. She is a 20 something temporary or what's referred to as a non regular worker, and she's on a 2-year contract with a low salary. She commutes into work she has quite a long commute. She sort of commutes from Incheon into Seoul, and she's juggling English evening classes after work. She's struggling to repay her student loans. Initially, Eun-young feels some sympathy for her. The story is set in motion when the new director of the company, a 30 something Korean man, asks Eun-young to fire Hemi before the end of her 2-year contract. The reason is that he doesn't like her attitude. She's late because of the subway. She takes time off to go to the doctor, and she leaves early to go to her English classes. And she even eats alone. And from this man's perspective, he thinks that she's not participating in the sort of work social life culture. So the stage is set for a conflict between the secure 30-something and the 20-something who's in this non-regular employee who's in this difficult situation. And Chang uses this dynamic to satirize and highlight some quite significant issues in Korean working culture and society in general. So, what are the elements of Korean working culture that Chang is most critical of? So there's two main areas that he's criticizing, that he's focusing on here. So the first is the difference between the middle generation of people born in the 60s and 70s, who are play most of the leading roles in society, and the generation born after the 1980s into a Korea with a much harsher economic reality. This middle generation, writes Chang, is proud that they brought democracy to Korea and they've benefited handsomely with everything that went along with democratization. In this story, this generation is represented by Eun-young, her husband, and the boss of the company. They can't understand Hemi and label her as ungrateful and as having a bad attitude. Hemi represents this post 1980 generation that is deeply critical of the middle generation. Hemi's generation lacks the security of Eun-young and her peers. The other area Chang critiques is a type of employment contract. He writes that after the 1990s, there was a bipolarity in Korean employment practices. He says that regular workers include those who were employed by large businesses before the 90s, the elite class who entered the labor market after the 90s, and public sector workers. They are secure and stable in their jobs and their position in society. Hemi, however, is a non regular temporary worker and, as such, is paid less and has almost no protection. Does Chang offer any solutions or any way out for the problems that he depicts in Fired? So we don't really see any solutions or paths out of the mess he describes, certainly not for Hemi, and by extension, her generation. But in writing about it and talking about it, perhaps it nudges things closer to finding some solution. There's a thoughtful commentary from Chang in an essay after the story. So these Asia Publishers editions often have essays and so on about the stories. And he says, there's so many things about Korean society today that you look at and think that's not right. Starting with gender inequality or the economy. How come anybody starting a new business fails? How come there are no jobs? What's the story there? And nobody knows the answer. You wish that somebody would write about that, to read about the pain you're going through from a slightly different angle. Maybe read about what other people are going through too. And that's exactly what he's doing here, right? We can see the struggle this person is having and we want it to be better for them. So, if workplace fiction that exposes this kind of two-track employment system, this sort of regular stability versus disposable temporary labor, or if you're interested in this moral gray zone of carrying out orders that you maybe have some problems with, please give the video a like and subscribe for more Korean literature spotlights. Leave a comment too if you want. Have you ever witnessed or lived and through this kind of situation? Have you been fired? Have you had to fire someone? And what should solidarity look like when one person's job security is pitted against another's survival? Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care and keep reading.